What's up, guys? So, I wanted to talk about the return of NASCAR. Now we've had a bunch of races since the return to pretty much gauge. And I don't normally do race reviews except if there's a special occasion or incident, something that's out of the ordinary that stands out that's worth talking about. So this isn't really a review of today's race in particular, but I will talk a little bit about it. But really, all the races together, the whole return of NASCAR since they came back in Darlington. So there was one major thing I was really focused on, and that was trying to attract new viewers, taking advantage of this current situation. There's nothing else really on in terms of sports, and I think it's the best possible opportunity that NASCAR has to attract new viewers. Why do I care so much about new viewers? How does that affect me? Well, it doesn't affect me, but I want to see NASCAR prosper as a sport. I want to see it expand. I want it to appeal to a wider audience because the better NASCAR does at attracting new viewers, the stronger the sport will be. This is it's a benefit to everyone involved, and nobody wants to see their favorite sport struggle. And NASCAR has struggled for many years. And I truly believe that this current situation, this pandemic, has created a vacuum, right, for sports in general. You're never going to have another opportunity like this, in our lifetimes. So I've been very focused on that. Like, I really want to see NASCAR do well and hopefully attract new viewers, and hopefully some of them will actually stick around. The results of that is not something you're going to know overnight. It's not going to be noticeable. This is for 5, 6, 7 years down the line, and there's no real way to measure that, but it's going to take a lot of exposure. So far, we've had a bunch of races at Darlington, Charlotte, Bristol. Today we had Atlanta. And overall, the on-track product, I'm very happy with it. I think it's been solid all around. Lots of good moments, lots of excitement. I'm not going to tell you it's the greatest racing we've ever had, but personally, I think if you're fair-minded, the racing's been pretty good. I have no real complaints with the on-track product. I think it's been entertaining. Every race has been pretty good. Even the Xfinity and the truck races have been pretty decent. Lots of passing on the track. We're not seeing a lot of these, cars that can't pass each other because of all the aerodynamics and the dirty air. Haven't really noticed too much of that. The racing's been pretty good. And overall, I think a lot of good has come from this situation. I think that a big silver lining has been that we've come to find out we don't really need all this practice and qualifying. All of this time that NASCAR teams spend on track practicing, it's expensive. A set of tires is almost $2,000. You got tires, you got fuel, you got personnel on the track all weekend. There's just a lot of money spent just in practice alone. Also, that doesn't even take into account, possible wrecks and having to go up to a backup car, repairing cars, things of that nature. So I think that owners can actually step back and say, do we really need all of this? And the answer is no. It's been proven, and this is not something they would have ever experimented with if it wasn't for this pandemic. So this is a big silver lining. And I do think that owners are going to probably huddle with NASCAR and say, when things get back to normal, maybe we can really seriously cut back on all this. It benefits everyone. And I don't think it puts anyone at a disadvantage, because you still see the same teams. The cream rises to the top no matter what. I don't see any real negative effects from any of it. So this is great. I still think they need a little practice, like maybe a 1 hour happy hour, and that's it. Just enough time to shake the cars down and, find out if there is any major issue that they need to take care of before the race. Shake the car down, and if the car needs a serious change, then you could do that. But that's it. You get that 1 hour, shake the cars down, get them ready, and that's it. You don't need all of these hours over the weekend, burning up tires and fuel and paying people, all of these people that have to be at the track and doing their jobs. We don't need it. And the product has not suffered one bit. And these random qualifying orders, again, it hasn't hurt the product at all. I think a lot of this stuff is not necessary. Now, there are some tracks where track position is extremely important, but really, it's a handful of tracks. It's most of these races have gone on without a hitch. So that's a silver lining, and that's an area where these teams can save a shitload of money. So that's a good thing that came from this. I like the product. The racing's been pretty good, pretty entertaining. We've had some really great finishes, lots of passing on the track. I really think you have to get a magnifying glass to really nitpick certain things. Overall, it's been great. So that leads me to the broadcast. And again, I got no complaints. The broadcasts have been really solid. And today's broadcast in particular, I enjoyed because they finally started doing some of the things that I've been asking for. Early on, I said it's important, I think, for these broadcasts like Fox and all of these broadcasters to keep in mind that you might be having new viewers and people that don't know much about race cars, the engineering behind it, the mechanics of it, and make sure that you have animation, things that can show people in a dumbed down way what's going on the track. When these announcers are talking about, let's say, the splitter, too low or too high, and or the tire wear, things of that nature, show animation so that people can actually see the engineering aspect of it, and they can actually see, oh, this is what they mean. If the splitter's too low and it's hitting the track, the front tires aren't making as much contact, it's harder to turn. That's why the guy can't turn in the corner if the splitter's too low. How does tire effect wear thing? And today, I noticed several times early on, at the second half of the race, they kind of went away from it. But I will give them a ton of credit, because early in the first half of the race, they did a lot of it. They showed the splitter in an animation, scraping on the track, and they actually showed an above track shot of the car not being able to turn in the corner, and another car going underneath and passing him, and they show why. Either the splitter's too high and there's too much air getting underneath, or it's too low. So that's great if you're somebody who doesn't know anything about cars, or hasn't followed NASCAR, and maybe this is your first time watching. These things are important, because the more you understand about the product you're watching, the more entertained you're going to be. The last thing you want is for people to just watch this and just say, well, it's kind of exciting, but all I see is cars going in circles. I don't really get why this guy just passed this guy, but he's still a lap down. Like, there's a lot that it's not easy for people that don't follow this stuff. So the reason I want to see more of this stuff is not really for me, and it's not for you. We're NASCAR fans. We know this stuff. but it's not about us. It's about holding on to people that might be watching for the first time and making this more palatable to them and understandable. And that increases the chances that, hey, after they watch this, they kind of feel like they're starting to understand it more, and then they might tune in next time. That's why I wanted to see that stuff. And today, especially, they did it several times, and I really appreciate that. So the broadcast has been great, not only there, but overall. I think the biggest compliment I could pay to the broadcasting side of things is you kind of forget that there's nobody at the track. In the beginning and the end of the race is the only time you really notice it. Once the race it starts and things get going, you almost forget what's going on. It's like, it almost feels like normal. You're watching a normal race under normal circumstances. So I got to give high marks to all the broadcasting. They've managed to figure out how to get everything done. They got that drone camera going around. So they figured out new ways to do things. And honestly, I don't think they could have done a better job. It's hard to think what could they have done better. Not much. So I love the on-track product. The racing's been exciting. And the broadcasts, I don't feel like, hey, there's something big missing here. They've done a fantastic job. So far, you have the broadcasting, the actual racing, adding those little moments of animation and showing people the engineering side of things and what's going on with the actual race cars. The silver lining of not needing practice or qualifying. Just these guys don't, they're good enough, and the racing's been good. All really good things, right? But I do have one major criticism, which is what I'm going to talk about now. When it comes to taking advantage of this pandemic and being the only one of the few things happening in terms of sports, I have to say, and they haven't done a good job. And I don't know who's to blame. Some of it goes to NASCAR. Some of it, I don't know who to blame. NASCAR, I do think maybe behind the scenes they're trying and they're just not able to do it. But I think they failed for the most part in exposing these races to the most people possible. When you look at the schedule, especially even from going forward, I see massive problems. If you're trying to get new viewers and take advantage of this pandemic and get the most highest ratings possible, they're not doing a good job of it, because the majority of these races are taking place on cable, on Fox Sports 1 or MSNBC, whatever it is. Most of the races are on cable. And the problem is that because of this pandemic, there are less people getting access to watch these races. Why? Remember, there's a ton of people, millions of people who are now out of work that had jobs just a couple months ago and are looking for ways to save money. They can't afford maybe to pay for these cable subscriptions. The cable business is a dying industry, and they are way behind in terms of innovation. They're outdated. They have refused to change with the times. What do I mean? The business model of cable is outdated. This idea of force feeding all of these extra channels that nobody watches to these packages so they can charge you more money than it's really worth, when most of us just have a handful of channels we care about. Look, I would say 70% of the channels that you probably have access to on cable are channels you never watch, don't care about, but you have no choice to have them as part of your package, because that's the way the business model works. Otherwise, they can't charge you that much money. Then, they have been able to package internet and all this other stuff to stay relevant. That's really, I think internet access is probably the biggest reason that cable companies are still surviving. But I think they're dying. They haven't changed with the times. People have more access to other content. You can stream off of YouTube. You have Netflix. You got Amazon Prime, other streaming services. And if all you have is local TV and you have Netflix, for a lot of people, that's good enough. So now, if you're out of work, you can't afford to pay $150, $200. I mean, the cable is extremely high priced, and it's for what you get, it's not worth it. And a lot of people who are out of work are now making this decision to say, I can't afford to be paying this much money for cable. I'm out of work. I got to find ways to save money and strip away the things I don't need. So now you got more people, okay, who have cut cable, have less access. So that's a whole group of people that no longer can watch these NASCAR races if they're on cable. If it's on Fox Sports 1 or MSNBC Sports, a lot of these people don't have cable. That's why it's important to make sure that as many of these races are on primetime network television, because you're missing a whole segment of society that are possible. You're leaving a lot of viewers on the table. So the cable industry is expensive and dying, and a lot of people are cutting them out, especially right now. A lot of people are out of work. So that's one massive, giant issue. Also, a lot of these races are happening in the middle of the week, on Wednesday, which is great. The problem is, again, if it's on cable, a lot of people miss out on it. Don't even know it's on. Right now, the night where you have the most potential viewers is on a Wednesday night. It's the middle of the week. A lot of people are out of work, and even people who do work usually are at home during prime time at night, Wednesday night. You look at these races like today, it's on a Sunday afternoon. Hardcore fans will watch, but these potential people that might watch, they're probably outside getting some air right now. So the Sunday races, I don't think you're going to see an increase or decrease. Either way, it's not going to be a big difference, because it's a weekend, and people are dying to go outside and get some air. They don't want to be in the house. So to me, the majority of people watching are hardcore fans. So you're missing out. So Wednesday nights, that's when you want to put these races on prime time. So you look at Wednesday night, what the fuck is on Fox? That stupid show where these supposed celebrities are singing. The Masked Singer, or whatever the fuck that shit is. And they're D-list celebrities at best. There's no real celebrities there. And most of these people are just rejects from some old reality show. So even if people like this show, move it to another night, so you can air a NASCAR race on a Wednesday night. This is when the most possible people are going to have access to view. Then on, let's say, Monday night, there's been nothing but reruns of 911. You could have moved that Wednesday night show to a different slot on a different night where you're just playing reruns, and leave Wednesday night open for NASCAR, where the most possible people are sitting at home on a Wednesday night. And what else is there to do on a Wednesday night but watch TV? So you're leaving millions of people on the table that you could have probably enticed to watch some NASCAR racing. I'm not going to say anything else about it. But in my opinion, this has been a huge failure for the sport. Because I'm telling you now, when you look at the schedule, there's probably just a couple of Fox races on Fox Network from here to August. The rest of the races are all on cable. When August comes around, if you pay attention to what's been going on with baseball, basketball, and even football, that's when a lot of these major sports are trying. They're targeting August to come back. Guess what? It's game over for NASCAR. Once baseball comes back, basketball, and then you got football, who's going to care about NASCAR except us, right? The hardcore NASCAR guys. Nobody's going to care at that point. They're going to be celebrating the fact that they can watch basketball again, baseball, and then football's coming back. NASCAR's not going to be the only game in town anymore. And that is the other massive failure. That instead of doing everything they could possibly do to make sure that the most possible people have access to watching NASCAR is out the window. And you look at the ratings, the average ratings for these cable races are around at the 2 million mark. 2 million people is embarrassing. That's not a lot of people. And I promise you, if a lot of these races were on network TV, because keep in mind, like I said, a lot of people are cutting their cable subscription because they just can't afford it right now. A lot of people are out of work. They probably just have access to local network TV. I don't know, man. Is it just me? Am I out of my mind? This shit does not make sense to me. And I'm just saying, it's not the ripple effect of this is just going to hurt NASCAR down the line. There's so much potential there to bring in some new people. There's nothing else on TV right now in terms of sports. And I thought they would take full advantage of this. Now, I'm not blaming it all on NASCAR. It's not up to them to demand that Fox put everything on Fox. But man, there has to be something they can do. And even convince Fox Network or NBC and say, look, man, you're playing a lot of fucking reruns. The stuff that you do have that is not reruns, move it to another time slot. Move it to another time, another day, to make room for this. There's no other sports on. And you're going to get high ratings anyway. If you're a network, you can't sell that? What about all these sponsors? I'm sure these sponsors would love having exposure on network TV on prime time in the middle of the week than on Fox Sports 1. You can see the rating numbers are dramatically different between network TV and cable. And I'm telling you, a lot of people don't have cable right now. Or they just, that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm not bringing this up anymore. From what I see from the schedule, from here all the way into August, it's a missed opportunity. And you're never going to see this opportunity in your lifetime ever again, where you're the only sport available to anyone for months. And that is a massive failure. I love what NASCAR is doing. The on-track product is great. I love the racing. Lots of passing, lots of excitement, lots of big stories. Even that Xfinity race where Chase Briscoe beat Kyle Busch at that last lap. That was one of the greatest finishes I've ever seen in any race, much less an Xfinity race. And guess what? Only people who happen to tune in on cable got to see that live. It's moments like that that you miss out if they would have been on network TV. Just think of how many more people, if they would have caught those moments and said, "Wow, that what a finish! That was exciting." That race was exciting. I thought the guy was going to lose, and he came back in that last corner. It was just I don't know what to say, man. It's what a missed opportunity. But that is really my only criticism that I have with NASCAR as a whole. Everything else has been pretty solid, and the broadcasting they've done a great job with the broadcasting. So it's just a shame that more people are not getting to see the product. So I want to know what you guys think about that. Let me know. I look forward to your comments later.